Recording. All right, so welcome everybody. Happy Friday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Meg. I'm part of the Power to Fly team here. Hold on a sec here. There we go. I'm part of the Power to Fly team here. I'll be hosting today's Chat and Learn with Andrea Breanna. Before we get started, in case anybody is new, we're going to go over some quick housekeeping. You are more than welcome to turn on your cameras, and if you'd like to join us, I know I very much value seeing new faces, especially now. So if you'd like to, you're more than welcome. Please don't feel pressured or like you have to be, insta-perfect to participate. We welcome everybody here. I think I'm done like day 4 of Messy Bun, so join in the fun. You are more than welcome to participate. Participation is key for all of our events. So please, if you would like to ask questions, you are more than welcome to come off mute. That being said, if you are not actively asking a question, try and keep yourself on mute. It helps prevent crosstalk and audio contamination. And if anybody besides me is talking, please don't interrupt them. I, on the other hand, love to be interrupted. So please feel free to interrupt me to ask questions or comment or whatever you'd like. You can also put questions and or comments into the chat, the text chat on the side. I'll be monitoring those in case anybody has a question they'd like brought up. If you want to ask a question but you'd like it raised anonymously, that's totally great too. Just make sure that you select me. My name's in there as Meg Alexander. Just select my name from the drop-down instead of sending it to everybody. I'll make sure the question is raised anonymously. Last thing, this whole chat and learn today is being recorded. So whether you're joining us for 5 minutes or for the full hour, everybody who registered today will get an email with the rewatch link once this video goes live on our website. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and that also helps that way you don't feel like you have to take notes, or if you might miss something, you can always go back and review it later. Hi, I'm seeing so many people joining us. This is so awesome. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest today. Andrea Breanna is the builder of RebelMouse, a better platform for brands and new media companies. The company has built 2 of the biggest new media companies to date, the Dodo and Axios, and also powers United Airline's hub. Before launching RebelMouse, Andrea was CTO of the Huffington Post. Andrea is proudly and openly transgender. So thank you so much for joining us today, Andrea.
I was finding my unmute. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Sorry, we have a little negotiation to get the 2-year-old downstairs, so it might be a little noisy for the moment. Evie, just let him be, and he's fine there with Mila. Okay, we'll see how we do.
We will, as with everything with quarantine, we will make the best of it, right?
We will. Thank you.
The one last thing I want to call out before we go to is that you are more than welcome to follow RebelMouse on Power to Fly. I'm going to put the link to their company page into the chat. I highly encourage you to check out their open roles. If you click follow on their page, it also will do 2 things. It's going to tell you the next time they post new roles, and it's also going to alert you when they participate in events like today. They were also just participators at our recent virtual career fair. Andrea also spoke at our summit recently. So this is a really easy and good way to make sure that you stay updated when things like this happen for companies that you're interested in following. So I'll throw that link into the chat momentarily. Last thing before we get started here, we have 2 pages of these questions. I'll throw them up on the screen. You guys can screenshot if you would like to. Some of our more type A joiners do this, so that way they know what questions are coming up. So please feel free to grab a screenshot if you'd like. And I'm going to switch to the next screen here in 2 seconds. Okay, this is our 2nd page of questions. So if you'd like to grab a screenshot of that as well, then you're more than welcome to. All right, so Andrea, to kick us off, can you share a little bit about your story, obviously as much or as little as you feel comfortable sharing?
Absolutely, and I would say I don't mind at all to be interrupted myself. Like Meg, I'm fine with that. And I couldn't help noticing Robert's question in chat, Meg, which I want to do first for you, since I have a very close connection to Power to Fly. Because Milena is the co-founder, and my wife. And so Power to Fly, she, like me, was a CTO and was building engineering teams and seeing how much subconscious discrimination there was in tech and the hiring process. And so often engineering managers and technical organizations would say, well, yeah, we're all men, but that's because I couldn't find a woman. for it. And that was such obvious bullshit. And so Power to Fly was founded to go change that and give no excuses and highlight all the amazing talent, women across the world that you can hire and that are amazing. And so it's been fun to watch their journey. They just had a summit last week, which had the most amazing speakers, like unbelievable. And they have over 1 million women on the platform, and they work with Apple and Amazon and Uber and are connected to the most incredible companies, and they're helping change those companies too. So it's very fun for me to watch Power to Fly grow. And anybody who's considering hiring and has open positions should always, because it's not just about engineering, but now it's become larger across any industry. There's an incredible talent. And my last pitch for Power to Fly, RebelMouse is like 70%. The team has been found and recruited through Power to Fly. So we have a tremendous amount of us that come from Power to Fly. And so RebelMouse is 60 people in 28 countries. And we give opportunities to be treated equally because we're distributed completely. So there's no sense of headquarters. And then, oh, you're in Brazil, so you can never really rise up. Our chief creative officer is in Serbia, and she's just a genius. We do have some open positions that we're looking for candidates. So we hire for people who have a love of traffic and understanding how to reach people. And though you don't have to understand it all, if that's interesting to you, then we have over 100 high traffic enterprise websites that are on our platform, and we reach roughly 100 million people a month. So a lot of people have learned all of how Google and Facebook works by working at RebelMouse. So that's the RebelMouse and Power to Fly. And my story is I was born in Mexico City, and I have known I'm trans since I was very little. I grew up a lot in California. My dad is American and my mom is Mexican, and there's a lot of English blood, British blood in my mom's line of Mexican ancestry. But my mom's family generally looks more Mexican, and my dad's family is totally American, and my dad's genes were extremely dominant in all of my 4 sisters too. So I have, since I was very, very little, known that I don't fit into boxes very well, because I was exposed to a tremendous amount of racism where I appeared, and also sexism, because people thought there was a white boy in the back and there was actually a Mexican girl. And so the sexist comments and the racist comments in California over what it means to be Mexican and class issues and all of those things, I used to be deeply ashamed of a lot of who I was. When I was in 2nd grade, this 3rd grader who was the most popular, Jay Miller. Jay, if you're out there, we haven't talked since 3rd grade. But Jay was a sweet guy, he was popular, and he kind of picked me. We were handball team members together, and it was a source of so much confidence. I thought if anyone found out I was Mexican, that would be taken from me. And so I used to, when my mom would come pick me up at school, I used to run to the car so that people wouldn't connect the dots. Later in 4th grade, I drew a play. They said, draw your favorite food. And my favorite food, which still ranks very high, is bean soup with hot sauce in it. And like that, so I tried to draw that, and all the kids were like, ew, that's so gross, that's disgusting. And that was my moment where I flipped to a sort of fuck all of you mentality that led me to sort of hate everything that was American in an overboard way. My Mexican side of the family was so close to me, and they understood me so much better than the American side of the family. I thought Mexican families were closer and tighter, and there's this, like, there's a lot of Latin American literature and the closeness of families, and I kind of took that too far. And when there's really very distant and cold Mexican families that are very dysfunctional, and there's very beautifully warm American families, but it took me till after undergrad to kind of stop overreacting. But all the time, this shame, I was always very embarrassed and ashamed of being trans. And so growing up in Palo Alto, I was exposed, my dad got an MBA at Stanford, and I was exposed to technology at an early age, which for me, I started to learn how to write code. The very first thing I wrote as code was when I was like 10 or 11, and it was a password protected file. It was like in BASIC. And it was the first place that my mom would read anything. If I wrote in a diary, I knew that wasn't private. There was no little lock that would keep her out. But this was the first place that she couldn't get into and that I could express myself as me. And then CompuServe and Prodigy and America Online, those were the first places that I could be Andrea. But I lived most of my life in terror that the real world, my real life, would understand that I was trans. And like many trans people who come out of the closet, were absolutely paranoid of being caught for years. So that's, fast forward, my key to my success in life has been not allowing the world to put me in boxes. As a technology person and writing code, they also wanted me in a box where you're the coder who has pimples, who's socially awkward and doesn't care about revenue, and just like, please do the code I asked you to do, and can you fix my printer and my fax machine? And I hate printers so much, and I hate fax machines, and I care about revenue, and I love design. And so Jonah Peretti, I met in grad school, and was one of the co-founders of Huffington Post. We worked together years before, and at HuffPost, Jonah and Ken Lear brought me in as CTO to run product design and engineering, because it matched Jonah's vision of finding someone who didn't fit in a box like that, wasn't just going to do technology, but cared about how it all came together. And so that was really a wonderful time in my career. And I've been very lucky because, well, some people, I think that I've talking with so many trans people I'm connected to, some people did a better job of hiding it from themselves, or they didn't fully realize. I always, since I was little, knew. I went to Halloween when I was young as a princess, and it was like a little testing the waters to see what would happen. And to be totally honest, the reaction was so strongly negative. So the reaction of society to trans people was so obvious to me. The only place I could find trans representation was in porn. There was nothing positive. There was like Miss Doubtfire, where was some comedy and something to be laughed at, etc. So finally, I think it's about, well, our little one is turning 3, and I don't think he was going to come to us until I came out of the closet, is my superstition. So it was about 3 years ago that I took the leap of faith to tell my wife, Milena, who I was, because every time I went on a business trip or she went on a business trip, it was my only chance to express my femininity. And I felt so wrong hiding this from her, because we've had such an honest and beautiful relationship. And so it felt fundamentally so dishonest to hide in fear. And so I came out of the closet to just her first, and I was sure I was risking losing her and everything that mattered most to me, which is the kids and the family. But it actually went beautifully, and it turned out to bring us together closer than ever. And then we went through a shorter phase where she was the only one who knew I was in the closet. And then we realized that that was really wrong. And then we told the kids, and then I came out at work and the community. And that's roughly like 2.5 years that I've been now happily, proudly out of the closet. So I don't know, that was the short version, but hi, that's me.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's very helpful for people to see how different people's journeys have been in this area, because at least to my mind, most of what you see, like you had said, growing up is either comedy or lampooning people, and that's not helpful. And then you see, things like Caitlyn Jenner or Laverne Cox that give you two completely opposite ideas of what trans life means for different people. But thank you for sharing that. I know it's very helpful for us, and I know we can tell that it's emotional for you. So thank you for trusting us with this. So one of the other questions that we had gotten was about discrimination. So this person had asked, has there been any discrimination towards you or your businesses because you are a trans woman?
Yes, but I'm very lucky. So one thing that will make any trans person who came out in this time of life, I like to pretend I'm 25, but I came out after I was 40. I'm seeing if the 2-year-old is going to be okay. Hold on. You need Yaya? Okay, we'll get her. Let's see. Can you go tell Mama? She can help you. You get tempted to regret all the years that you missed. The chance to have been in a 20-year-old body and expressing being trans. But hold on one second. Let me see if I can find my 10-year-old to help.
Take your time. While we're in between questions, I do want to call out if anybody has anything else they would like to ask Andrea. She said she'd be more than willing to take questions. So I put that information into the chat.
Okay.
I also shared the link to RebelMouse's page so you can check out their current open roles, as well as follow them if you'd like to. So
thank you for buying me time, Meg.
Anytime. What I'm here for.
So thank you, Christina, and I agree, and I believe deeply in not living in regrets. So you have to, the thing that's very beautiful and lucky, and I feel very privileged, is that I came out after I had success in my career. That's what would have been so much harder, and that's where young trans people really struggle, is that so far Milena's not doing the trick yet. Okay, Mila, go upstairs with him, please. Go upstairs with him. He wants only you. Mama won't do. The connection between our 10-year-old and our 2-year-old is so cute. I'm going to try to not have terrible backlighting problems, so I'm finding the place. I don't know. That's not much better, is it? Let's see. So, okay. Thank you. So one thing that is really important to me is that most young trans people have only stories told of horrific discrimination and a downward spiral of trans people out of the closet. I want to share not so much the discrimination that I've felt, which is generally more anonymous. the struggle I've had with my inherited family has been a little bit bigger, and then like random weird LinkedIn messages or Twitter, I've had to block thousands of people, and on LinkedIn block thousands of people, because being trans today is a lot like being gay in the 50s was. People see it as an abomination and all these things that we just face a lot of discrimination. But I do want to share that actually there's been a series of surprises that are very beautiful. I thought when I came out of the closet, so much of my engineering team was like in Eastern Europe or Russian, or like come from countries that didn't feel like I'd get a trans-friendly reaction from. And the team has been adorably sweet, just beautiful. And it turns out that, of course, being openly trans puts you in a vulnerable position. And Brene Brown's teachings about vulnerability have applied 100%. It has brought us closer as a team. It's also given the opportunity for clients and business prospects who actually are sometimes come from a conservative background or point of view, and you're tempted to just simplify the world and say, oh, liberal people are going to be nice to you, and conservative people will be horrible to you. It's actually much more interesting. We have a client in Milan, La Verità, and they actually have I didn't really know it. I know Italian, but it's busy. They were wonderful the way they treated me, the CEO. So we were traveling and we were going through Italy. So I stopped by their office to do a couple-hour meeting. Knowing that they were a little bit conservative, I put on the high heels, I put on the full dress, like wasn't going to hide it. They were so wonderful and so sweet to me. And we've seen time and time again as a business that it actually gives people a chance to prove that they are good people, that they aren't going to become. What's going on, little one? You're running here now? Okay, I'm going to do a little check going upstairs now. Oh, he's going to come back up. All right, so I'll stay here. We'll see. So I think really the thing is that what the world needs is for you to have your confidence, to have your what they fear, and this is what I think will often stop. The other privilege and benefit and luck that I have, the problem is being trans is that just going to the deli, going to the grocery store, you're going to get these awful experiences where people look at you with disgust and with hate. And so keeping your balance, I have this super lucky thing. By the way, you also have all these wonderful, beautiful moments when you just walk out, where these amazing connections happen. But you have to be able to keep your eyes open. You have to keep your head up, or those beautiful moments don't happen. When Milan and I got married, part of our honeymoon was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And I got altitude sickness there. And it's metaphorically what can happen to you when you're discriminated against. And I'm positive this happens to all minorities to some degree. And all of us have this happen, where the hate from someone can cause you to lose. What happens with altitude sickness is you lose vision, is the first thing. You stop seeing the peripheral, and it closes and closes and closes until you can almost not see your hands. And that reaction of hate and bigotry and you don't want to look at anyone in the eyes anymore. You just don't want to see that look of disgust. I have this wonderful, beautiful privilege, which you can see right here, of coming home to a loving house where I can recharge completely, and we can I've had the support of my kids immediately when I came out to them. they didn't say this makes no sense, it's not true, are you sure, are you having a midlife crisis, the way honestly my parents did. Instead, they said, oh, we get it, we saw it, we've seen it, it now makes sense, like it's you. And then they've been so proud of who I am and that support. That has allowed me then, along with the team here, to be able to, I think, we've grown the business actually quite a bit since I came out of the closet. And I think we've grown it across the board with some amazing clients that are liberal and just beautiful, like Paper Magazine that has so many non-binary and trans representation in their editorial. But also in places you don't expect, like Motherly has been classically cisgender, thinking of cisgender moms. They've been so beautiful in how they treat me as a trans feminine person. And overall, then also our team is like 30% LGBT. So you can't even do a deal with RebelMouse without signing a deal with a trans woman and a gay man. And you'd be shocked how many people want to work with us. So I hope my message is less about the discrimination you face and that will prevent you from being successful, and more the beautiful connections that you can make by being yourself and doing it anyway. Thank you. These comments are going to make me cry. They're so beautiful. Thank you.
They're amazing. There is one question that came up in the chat that I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher someone's name. Uma Sankar wants to know, what's your advice to the upcoming trans people, and what should they do to improve their life and add value to the community?
Well, I think that just being visible is a lot. Just not hiding, because the thing that most people don't realize is there are a lot more trans people in the closet than anyone has numbers on. And many people have come to me and they're not ready to come out to the world. But I worked with them and no one ever thought they were trans, and they are trans. And so they're actually in your companies, they're in your families, they're in your friends. And so for me, just the act of being visibly trans is very powerful. And so being able to give others a chance to see positive messages, because we have a struggle, a tension as trans people, because we have to share the horrors that we face. We need society to understand it. It's and that's why I feel so lucky. We live just a few blocks away from where the Black Trans Lives Matters demonstrations have been strongest. And it is so beautiful to see, because obviously there's been tremendously violent discrimination, particularly against Black trans women who have been murdered this year and murdered the year before and who will be murdered next year. And so there's a darkness of the reality of the horrors that we face, where just walking out the door as trans, you don't know if some fucking crazy person is going to attack you. And so we've had a couple encounters with crazy people where it avoided becoming physical and violent, but that's obviously what they wanted from it. So there's an element of needing to share the violence that we face and the discrimination we face, but there's also an element of needing to share the beautiful things that happen to us. Because for every one of those horrific things that we've experienced or that have happened, at least for me in my life, there's 10 that are beautiful. So I think that having the balance to be able to not just withdraw into the darkness and amplify the darkness, but to be able to share the light moments, the beautiful moments, the I got a job, the I signed a client, the achievements and success. And we're seeing more and more of that, where people are achieving success as a openly trans person. And I think that is just even 10 times more important to share. My high school had invited me to be in their, like, I don't know, it sounds cheesy to say, but their Hall of Fame or whatever. And it was from the HuffPost success that they wanted me to. And I never said yes until they asked me when I was out of the closet to come as Andrea. And that's when I knew I had to go. And if you had asked my high school when I was there, how many trans people do you have in this school? The answer would have been 0. We were all in the closet. But the beautiful thing is that when I went, same high school, South Eugene High School, there were 14 out of the closet trans kids. And I got to meet with 12 of them. And so much future, so much brightness, so much optimism. 2 didn't come. 1 had been kicked out of their home by their family. And the other had been abused so heavily, like couldn't deal with people they didn't know and couldn't come to the thing to talk. So I think that what trans people need to see, I think a lot about the trans people that are in the closet, that are in such hiding and such fear of being found out, that they need to know that the world can be safe to them.
I don't have words, so thank you for that. I know we had a person in the chat wanted to raise their hand and ask a question. Nicole?
Yes, thank you so much for your bravery. Oh my gosh, you're literally bringing me to tears, and other people in the chat as well. You are such an inspiration to get to listen to, and it is an honor to have you on here and to speak.
Thank you.
And so, you know, I wanted to ask you, I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And so a lot of times I feel similarities between Latin American cultures, no matter, you know, how different they are. And I wanted to ask you about being a Mexican trans woman, and what has that been like, and the visibility of trans women in the Mexican culture. And I know you're not the sole, you know, I don't want to put the burden on you as the sole representative of that, but I wanted to ask you how that is. And of course, if you feel comfortable speaking about it, you know, I want to be respectful.
Well, it definitely feels more difficult because I've only visited Buenos Aires, so speaking from the Mexican perspective, it's such a Catholic country. And the Catholicism I know loves to use shame. And that's the Catholicism that plagued my path. I don't appreciate it. I don't like it. My grandmother divorced a horrible man who was abusive. And, you know, they blocked her from coming to the church for divorcing. So I don't have a lot of there's some trans people who manage to have warm feelings towards the church anyway, and there's a lot of wonderful LGBT-friendly churches. But in general, what happens with Mexican trans people is that they're treated like a perversion. And so they end up relegated to sex work as the only option. Mexico's line between homophobia and homosexuality is like comedy if you are in the right mood for it. They're always acting out homosexual desires to catch the other person being homosexual, and it's the albur is the name. It's a joke, a type of a joke, so that if you pick up a quarter, the guy behind you does like, oh, like he's fucking you, and that's ha ha ha, and it's a joke, and it's one after the other. So the complexity of the culture is really amazing now, and so my experience, we go back to, well, before COVID, we'd spend 3 weeks of the year in Mexico. And so the first time that I came to Mexico out of the closet as a trans person was so scary. It was scary for my wife. My kids didn't really know, but I had made a promise, I'm not going back in the closet. So we had to go as us. And the first day, we're at a pool, and we had been there 4 years in a row. They know us. So got a lot of weird looks, got a lot of things, and then I had my super paranoid moment because teenagers were jumping off a high diving board. And one got up there, and I'm going to go back downstairs again. One got up there, and, he was scared. It was a pretty high jump. And they start screaming. Everyone around the pool, kids and adults, start screaming, puto, 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 which is incredibly, it's like screaming faggot. And I panicked. I was like, what am I doing here? I'm going to get killed. The thing that keeps me safe in Mexico, and this is the complexity of the culture, is that no matter what, family comes first. So when they see me with Milena and with the kids, I'm untouchable. There's no way you could harm someone who's taking care of kids and who's committed to the family. The family is the center of everything. It's more important than anything. So it actually turns out that I'm very safe in Mexico as long as I'm near the kids. And so in the evenings when it gets dark, as any woman knows, society gets weird. And that I didn't realize until coming out of the closet. But the safety that I have will know if the neighborhood's a little strange, the things are weird, I need to have a kid with me and everything's going to be fine. Then it also has beautiful moments. So I gave the dark side and the scary side. There are some beautiful moments that happen. We were at the beach all day. We were in Sayulita, which is this gorgeous surf town, very hippie. And there's 4 out of the closet trans girls who one's at the taco shop, the other, gorgeous. I wish I was as cute as them. Oh my God. But really liberal town as far as Mexico goes, very much on the hippie side of things. We were on the beach all day, and I bring my speaker, and we play on the beach and everything, and then we're leaving towards the end of the day, and this woman comes running up. And this is all in Spanish, but I'll do it translated in English, So she says, I'm so sorry. She saw we're leaving, and we're putting on, washing off our feet and stuff. She said, I'm sorry, but please, can I ask you some questions? And she was obviously not doing it from a position of hate or criticism or anything. So I try to be open. So of course, what's on your mind? What can I, She says, well, we've been having a debate all day. I think you're their dad. But my husband, he thinks you're the nanny. And Milena and I have always laughed since that I'm the super high-priced trans nanny. And so obviously trans moms have trouble with the word dad and stuff, but she didn't mean any offense at all. And so I explained it to her, and she said, well, I just want you to know that we've all learned so much from you today. And the way you act with your kids, it's so beautiful. And I know I'm not the only person who learned from you. And it's just bless you, she said. And it was just the most beautiful energy. And so I think I feel that in Mexico over and over again, is that no one likes being trapped in the boxes that we've been put in. And seeing a breakout of the box and seeing, I think a lot of times what will happen on the beautiful side is being openly trans is an expression of freedom from the patriarchy, from the system, from the way as the dad in that family and the boys, her sons, the limited room they're given for behavioral expectations on how they're allowed to act, how close they could be to their kids without it looking like they're feminine and like they're acting like a mom instead of a dad. All of those things, I think there's this element that the repression of Mexico is actually so many people are suffocating in it. And so there's an element just being in Mexico where these little moments happen all the time. That's one story of it. But in particular, being a trans feminine person, my connections are almost always with women. It's very rare. It's 1 out of 100 of men who are comfortable enough with themselves to be able to, like, we now are in Brooklyn, but living in Battery Park, it's the moms who became friends with me. And close friends and really fun and really wonderful. And then a couple dads who were actually like secure and confident enough to be able to come and say, it's awesome and I love it and I support you. But the vast majority of the women, and these connections to women in Mexico who see a freedom maybe also for their sons, for an expression. I think a lot of moms understand that their sons, maybe there's more to them than what society is pinning them into. So, I think it's a very complicated question that you asked for sure, but I think it's something that's shared around the world. It's like I saw a comment about being Irish Catholic, and I know we have a developer on the team who she's in Eastern Europe and actually in Soviet side of it, so in Russia, and just the fear that she has for her son to be open about who he is. And yet then like the ability to see these positive role models where the CEO is trans, that it doesn't have to be something that makes you less than or makes you unfit to be successful in life. It is like a huge battle wherever there's these really strong patriarchal structures.
I think that's a really good call out that I feel like we don't really hear a lot about, and we're hearing more and more, but it's about how widespread toxic masculinity is and how it's bad for everyone. It's not just, just bad for women. It's bad for men and boys. So you're right, like it's that you're fighting against that patriarchy, but that patriarchy is enforcing that ideal of masculinity only being in like a certain box. And just how, like you said, how suffocating that is for everyone. So thank you for sharing the differences in that culture and how that can bring out some really beautiful things as well as some dark things. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Andrea, this is Robert.
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank you for being so generous with us. I feel like you're sharing so much with us with generosity that's unleashed and appreciated. I want you to know that, first of all.
Thank you.
Secondly, I live in the Bay Area, you know that. I live in Oakland, and lately I've noticed more people are introducing themselves with pronouns. And the first time I heard it, I immediately thought, oh, of course, this is a way to let people know that I'm an ally, right? This is a way for me to share. Do you agree with that? And if so, and what else can I do to help make other people, aside from, of course, living my own truth and sort of being open and honest about who I am, but is there anything else that I can do to make it easier for our trans friends and community members and colleagues to be themselves?
So thank you. So lovely to see you here. Like I said before, it's wonderful. Robert and I met at a gala, and it was mostly gay men and some lesbians. I felt like the only trans person, and I felt kind of alone that night. And then Robert and his husband walked me home where I didn't feel safe walking home. And I was just so beautiful. So it's wonderful to see you. And I think, listen, what we need, what trans people need, is just any hint that that you'll be friendly to us. You know, it's whether it's just, so the pronouns is this wonderfully simple way to indicate that I'm aware that this is happening, that I am open to it, and so my pronouns are. It gives a chance for other people to, oh, thank God, because I have a couple thousand trans people that I'm connected to on Twitter, and at least 500 of them are not out at work. And they're sure, because there are so many stories of coming out at work, and guess what? You're fired 6 months later. So to know from a work perspective, from leadership, to give any signal whatsoever that you'd be positive and receptive and not discriminatory could mean the world to someone. So that can be as simple in a company. The sharing pronouns in a meeting, it's a wonderful way to do it. When someone joins the company, because you don't know who's trans. Like, they didn't, at HuffPost, they didn't think the CTO was trans. So for me, I've always worked with people who were not homophobic, who were so actually my process of coming out, I was very lucky, because my network of people that I wanted to work with, if you expressed homophobia or transphobia or anything like that, I just wouldn't work with you, period. So I in a way I was lucky, in another way it's because I knew who I was, so I couldn't work with someone who was like that. But the other ways that are easy to share is like, there's Trans Day of Visibility. There's several different days through the year that are related to Pride or Trans Day or Black Trans Lives Matter. Sending that to your company, to the team at type of a distro list, to include it in all hands, to say this matters to us. Just sometimes it can be as simple as, I was watching Pose last night. And have you seen it? It's so good. It's da-da-da. There's just little hints is all that people need to know whether you're going to actually be accepting. And those little hints have meant to the other 1,500 people I'm connected to, some of them are CEOs, but most of them report to someone. And the terror in coming out to them, wonderful relief when they were treated well. I mean, it's like, there's no way to express the way we all celebrate to each other when someone says, I came out at work and my boss was fine with it. They were cool. They were supportive. It's just because we brace for the worst, and we brace for it to be a horrific experience. So any of those little hints, they can be subtle, but I can guarantee you we pick up on them because it's the world to us. And so the other thing that I'd say is just in your outside of work life, there's a lot of cues trans people give. There's this beautiful trans writer who works in a media company who went to the Black Trans Lives Matter march, and she was served there. That's the worst, these honorifics, where they say, it ruins the day. It's like, to get the wrong, to be misgendered, it just can ruin the day, the month, the year, depending on how your stability is, etc. She used to have longer hair, so it used to be like some of us, there's a movement on trans billability to not be passable, because that's the phrase. If you're passable, it means nobody even knew you were trans. You just looked like this gorgeous girl, and then they found out later. As a non-passable trans person, I'm proud of the community that is stepping up to be visibly trans and not need to pass. But we still try to give lots of cues, like I don't go anywhere without my double trans bracelets.
double. And like the nail polish, I don't know with the light if you can see, but I'm sending signals. I'm trying to say this, like, pay attention. All of us, almost all of us, unless we're in the closet, try to send signals. It might be lipstick, it might be the color of the shirt or the blouse, it might be that, because sometimes what's weird for us is we spend most of our life being petrified of being caught. Then you come out and you're wearing only women's clothes now, and they still sir you at the cash register. And it's like, so I'd say be aware. To honorifics rarely help anyone. The yes ma'am, yes sir, all that stuff, it doesn't make anyone feel better anyway. So there's always a better way to go about it. Like honey and sweetheart, like those are perfectly fine. At Whole Foods, when I check out and she says, okay, honey, have a beautiful day, like, thank you. She didn't have to say girlfriend or miss or da-da, but it wasn't a sir. And there's a lot of little subtle ways to just avoid the wrong honorific and just catch the cues and help the people around you catch those cues. It's like we really do try very hard. It's almost like animals in nature. It's like, hello, we're sending the fucking signals. So that, just being aware of that is really important. And yes, the trans colors are pink, white, and blue, and it's a trans flag. And to be honest, I wish that, the pride flag is so recognized. You wear a pride bracelet, and they say, oh, if they're not gay, they're an ally of gay people, and they get it. You wear the trans bracelet, and it feels like only 10% of society is educated in any way. Even people who are very successful in business. So we fight this thing that is a little struggle to have people realize. And there's so many young people who are accepting being non-binary, which is 100% part of the trans umbrella. And they and them and not being he or she is a little more difficult on our gut. Like you kind of have like your heartbeat just happens and you get used to using the singular for people. So using they and them, they are right here when you're pointing at one person. They said this instead of using the he, she. But in general, it's like one part is using your pronouns and then one part is with strangers avoiding pronouns, especially around people who seem to maybe be in the non-binary, because you can avoid ruining someone's day just by dodging the pronoun and giving a chance. So those little things like sharing I wish my mom had once in 3 years shared a happy Trans Day of Visibility or happy Trans Pride Day, one of those things, just once. And I know that it would have helped me come out of the closet earlier if some of the people, like my investors or clients, had been like actively sharing that type of a thing. So when you come across it, this moment, it might be like, whoa, I saw Laverne last night being interviewed and she's amazing. But I see we're over a little. It's so nice to see you, Robert. So no worries.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that that's a very good call out, is that, I feel like a lot of us don't realize that we have that power and that privilege and that security to be able to stand up and make these small gestures that would mean the world to people in the trans community. And it's no skin off our nose. I'm not risking anything by asking you what your pronouns are. And if somebody's going to come at me for that, I'm at least in a more secure place where I'm not constantly worried that people are going to misgender me or something like that. So using that power that people don't really recognize that they have to help others, it's the easiest thing in the world, guys. It's as simple as asking what people prefer to be called.
And just as a little call out, so perfect is Nicole's background. you throw one of those into your Zoom meeting and during it, and like, oh, safety, like you're putting Laverne Cox up there, and it looks like a pride flag too. It can make people feel so much more comfortable just to know. So little signals like that you're not going to shame people and that you're going to be supportive can mean so much. So it can mean literally the world, and honestly, for a lot of people, life and death too.
We are right at time. Go ahead, Nicole.
Sorry, I just want to thank you so much for coming on to have this conversation. On Wednesday, we had Chris Shane here, who is an educator in the LGBT. And yes, and she was amazing. And it's just really, I feel so grateful to you for being able to be vulnerable and open. And it was just honestly, thank you so much. I have appreciated more than you know, and you've made my Friday so much better and my life. So thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. Love the flag. Thank you, Christina. We miss you. Christina's an old friend of Milena's, and I remember hanging out in Toronto. So lovely to see you. I realized I had another meeting too, so I have a hard stop, but so nice to see you. Thank you so much. So many beautiful people. Thank you for joining. And I got a message there, but Andrea@rebelmouse.com is my email. I'm very happy to talk with anyone who has more questions or anything like that. So thank you so much, Meg, for hosting me here and your beautiful questions and coordination. And bless everyone here. Have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you to everybody that joined us today. As we wrap up for this afternoon, just know that you'll be receiving links to the rewatch after the recording is live on our website. And if you have any further questions, please reach out and connect with Andrea, or you can also email the Power to Fly help desk, which is hi@powertofly.com. So we'll see you with more Chat and Learns next week. And I hope everyone has a lovely weekend. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Meg.